The scream cut through the fluorescent hum of Value Mart like a knife. "Daddy!" Every head in aisle 7 turned. Shopping carts stopped mid-roll. A jar of pickles slipped from someone's fingers and shattered on the linoleum, but no one moved to clean it up. In the center of the aisle stood a man in a $3,000 suit, frozen mid-step. Facing him was a young woman clutching a 3-year-old boy who was straining toward the stranger with both arms, tears streaming down his face. "Daddy! Daddy came back!" The woman's face had gone white. "Leo, no, he's not your." But the boy wasn't listening. He was reaching, grasping, his small fingers opening and closing like he was trying to catch smoke. "Smells like Daddy. Smells like storm." The man in the suit, Julian Sterling, though no one in the store knew his name, felt something crack inside his chest. Not because a child had mistaken him for someone else. That happened. Children made mistakes. What stopped him cold was the phrase, "Smells like storm." Julian brought his wrist to his nose without thinking. The scent was there, the one he'd worn every day for 5 years, ozone and cedarwood. The smell of the air before lightning strikes. He'd never told anyone what it smelled like to him. He'd never had the words. How does this child know? 3 hours earlier, Audrey Vance had counted the coins in the ceramic pig on her kitchen counter. $43.20. 2 weeks of groceries. It could be done. It had to be done. Leo sat at the table, carefully coloring a picture of a house. His tongue stuck out in concentration, the same way his father's used to when he was working on calculations. "Mama," Leo said without looking up. "Can we get the animal crackers, the ones with the frosting?" Audrey's heart squeezed. The frosted animal crackers cost $4.99. That was nearly 12% of her budget. "We'll see, baby." Leo nodded, accepting this. He'd learned early that "we'll see" usually meant no. On the table beside his coloring book sat a framed photograph of a man with wire-rimmed glasses and a crooked smile. Next to that, taking up half the surface, was a half-built machine. Wires and circuits and metal housing, the skeleton of a dream that never got to breathe. Elias had called it his perpetual motion engine, a battery that could charge itself from the air. A revolution in energy storage. He'd worked on it for 6 years, filling notebooks with equations Audrey couldn't read, sending applications to every grant and venture fund he could find. They all came back stamped, rejected. He died 2 years ago, 3 months after the diagnosis. Pancreatic cancer. The medical bills had followed him into the grave, $147,000 and counting. Audrey touched the photograph. "I'm taking Leo to the store," she told it. "I'll try to get the animal crackers." The photograph didn't answer. It never did. Julian Sterling hadn't set foot in a regular grocery store in over a decade. His housekeeper had called in sick. The specialty coffee he required, Geisha from Panama, $85 a pound, was only available at one local retailer. He could have sent someone else, could have waited, could have made do with the Jamaican Blue Mountain in his pantry. Instead, he'd gotten in his car and driven to Value Mart on Aurora Avenue. He couldn't explain why. Something in him wanted to see what normal people did on a Saturday morning. Wanted to feel, for 1 hour, like someone without security protocols and board meetings and a net worth that required its own accountant. He found the coffee aisle and began scanning the shelves. Folgers, Maxwell House, Starbucks. No Geisha. Of course not. That's when the cart hit his hip. "Oh God, I'm sorry." A woman, late 20s, blonde ponytail, worn sweater. She was wrestling with a toddler who was reaching toward a display of fruit snacks with single-minded determination. "Leo, no. Leo, sit down." "It's fine," Julian said. His voice came out colder than intended, reflex, his default setting. He turned to continue his search. That should have been the end of it. But then the child went still. Julian felt it before he saw it. A shift in the air, a change in pressure. He turned back. The boy was staring at him. Not the unfocused gaze of a distracted toddler, but something else. Something that made Julian's skin prickle. The boy inhaled deeply and screamed, "I'm so sorry." Audrey was unbuckling Leo now, pulling him from the cart, her hands shaking. "His father died 2 years ago. Sometimes he thinks he sees him. I don't know what." She stopped. Her nostrils flared slightly, unconsciously. And then she looked at Julian with an expression he couldn't read. "That scent," she said. "What are you wearing?" Julian didn't answer. He was still watching the boy, who had quieted now, face buried in his mother's neck, one small hand still reaching toward Julian. "It was my father's," he heard himself say. "I don't know where it came from." "Your father's, yes." A long pause. Julian could see her calculating. Fight or flight? Trust or run? "Mama." Leo's voice was muffled against Audrey's shoulder. "Smells like Daddy's workshop. Smells like the bottles." Audrey's face changed. The careful exhaustion fell away, replaced by something sharper. Fear. "I have to go," she said. She grabbed her purse, abandoning the cart of groceries entirely. "I'm sorry about this." She was past him before he could respond, almost running toward the exit. Julian watched her go. Watched her struggle with the door, with the car seat, with the ancient Honda Civic that coughed twice before starting. He memorized the license plate without meaning to. "Smells like Daddy's workshop. Smells like the bottles." Julian pulled out his phone and made a call. "I need you to run a plate." The file arrived Monday morning, 7 pages, the skeleton of a life. Audrey Marie Vance. Widowed, 1 child. Spouse, deceased Elias James Vance. Julian stared at the name. "Why do I know that name?" He opened Sterling Dynamics' internal database and typed it in. 1 result. Application SF29-4471. Applicant, Elias J. Vance. Project Atmospheric Energy Capture and Storage. Status rejected. Julian clicked the file. The evaluation notes appeared on screen. "Another crackpot with a perpetual motion fantasy. The science is borderline nonsensical. This man will never amount to anything. Marcus Webb, VP of R&D. Julian's jaw tightened. He kept reading. Attached to the rejection was a handwritten note on his father's personal stationery. "M. Keep the sample. Something about this one. Revisit after Q4. Sterling Sr., his father had wanted to fund the project, had asked Marcus to hold on to the materials. Julian switched databases, pulled up the current R&D pipeline. Project New Horizon, Sterling Dynamics Classified Breakthrough Technology. The cornerstone, Atmospheric Ion Capture System. AICS. Julian opened the technical specifications, found the chemistry breakdown. His blood went cold. The formula was identical, not similar, not inspired by, identical. Sterling Dynamics' revolutionary technology, the one Marcus had been celebrating in investor meetings, was copied directly from the proposal of a dead man. A dead man whose child had recognized his stolen work by smell. Julian found Audrey at a coffee shop 3 weeks later. Not stalking. Preparation. He needed to understand before he approached. She walked in at 7:43, Leo on her hip, dark circles under her eyes. She ordered a small coffee, the cheapest thing on the menu, and turned to find a seat. Their eyes met. He watched the recognition hit. Watched her stiffen. "Storm man," Leo chirped, delighted. "Mama, Storm man." Julian rose slowly. "Mrs. Vance, I was hoping to run into you." "Run into me?" Her voice was flat. "In a coffee shop across town from where we met." She wasn't stupid. Julian filed that away. "I owe you an apology," he said, "and an explanation." "I don't need either. Your husband submitted an application to my company 3 years ago, for funding, for a project involving atmospheric energy capture." Audrey went still. "The application was rejected, but the technology wasn't. It's currently the cornerstone of a multi-billion-dollar initiative, and the man who rejected your husband's proposal is taking credit for inventing it." Silence. Leo was watching Julian with those green eyes, reaching for him again. "Why are you telling me this?" Audrey's voice was barely a whisper. "Because your son recognized the scent of his father's stolen work, and I think it's time someone did something about it." She didn't trust him, not at first. "Why should I believe you?" "You shouldn't, not yet." "Then why are you here?" Julian thought about the question. The honest answer was complicated, tangled up with his father's ghost and his own emptiness, and the way Leo had looked at him in that grocery store. "Because your son called me Daddy," he said finally. "And for about 3 seconds I felt what it might be like to matter to someone." Audrey studied his face. "That's a strange thing to admit." "I'm a strange person." Something in her expression softened. Not trust, not yet, but the beginning of curiosity. "1 coffee?" she said. "You have 1 coffee to convince me you're not crazy." "Fair enough." He told her about the rejected application, about Marcus Webb's dismissive notes, about his father's handwritten request to revisit the project. He told her about Project New Horizon and the formula that matched Elias's work exactly. He told her about the bottle on his dresser, the scent he'd worn every day for 5 years without knowing where it came from. My father left it to me, Julian explained. No explanation, just a note. May it remind him what matters. Audrey's eyes were bright. Elias made that scent in our garage. It was a tracer compound. He used it to track chemical reactions. He called it the smell of the future. Leo remembered it. Leo was barely 1 when Elias died. He shouldn't remember anything. But he does. She nodded slowly. Just the smell. He'd catch it sometimes when I opened Elias's notebooks, when I touched the equipment. He'd go very still, then start looking for his daddy. Julian thought about his own father, the silences, the things left unsaid. I want to make this right, he told her. I don't know how yet, but I want to try. The weeks that followed changed everything. Julian didn't know how to describe it. The gradual shift from investigation to something else, something warmer. He started visiting Audrey's apartment, ostensibly to review documents, to build the case against Marcus. But he stayed for dinner, stayed to help with bath time, stayed to read Goodnight Moon 4 times in a row because Leo demanded it. He learned to sit on the floor and build Lego towers, learned that macaroni and cheese from a box could taste like happiness, learned that Leo's laugh, high and delighted, could crack open something in his chest that had been sealed shut for decades. You're different, his assistant told him one morning. You smiled in the elevator. Julian didn't know how to explain, didn't have the words. I think I'm learning how to feel, he wanted to say. A 3-year-old is teaching me. The discovery came on a Thursday. Audrey had pulled out Elias's master notebook, hundreds of pages of equations and diagrams, the complete record of his life's work. I've never shown this to anyone, she said, placing it on the coffee table. Julian opened it carefully. Page after page of cramped handwriting, brilliant and obsessive. And there, on page 47, the formula for the tracer compound. Ozone and cedarwood, Julian read aloud. Scent marker for identification purposes. That's why he made it smell that way, so he could tell when the reaction was working. Julian turned the page, found something else, a personal note written in different ink, sent sample to Sterling Dynamics today. If they fund this, everything changes. Says I'm dreaming. Maybe. But what's life without dreams? His throat tightened. He was so hopeful, Audrey said quietly. He really thought they'd believe in him. My father did believe in him. Julian told her about the note he'd found. Keep the sample. Something about this one. Then why? Marcus buried it, told my father the science wasn't viable, then waited for Elias to die. The words hung in the air. I trusted the wrong person, Julian said. For years. I let him run R&D without oversight. I never asked where the breakthroughs came from. Audrey reached across the table and took his hand. Her fingers were warm. This isn't your fault. It's my company. It's my responsibility. You didn't know. I should have. She squeezed his hand, didn't let go. The news broadcast changed everything. Julian was in a board meeting when it happened. The wall screens showed the usual ticker feeds, market updates, business news. Then a special feature. Sterling Dynamics, the future of clean energy. Julian watched without really seeing. Stock footage of laboratories, interviews with engineers, and then Marcus appeared on screen, gray-haired and smiling. This is the culmination of years of dedicated work by our brilliant team, Marcus said. Sterling Dynamics is proud to lead the charge into a cleaner future. The screen cut to a schematic of the AICS system. Julian recognized it instantly. It was Elias's diagram. Page 52 of the notebook. The one with the coffee stain in the corner and the margin note. Show this to A tonight, she'll understand. They digitized it, cleaned it up, removed every trace of the man who'd created it. Julian stood so abruptly his chair crashed backward. This meeting is adjourned. Audrey was waiting at her apartment when he arrived. I saw the broadcast. Her face was pale. Julian, that drawing, I know. They put it on national television. They didn't even change it. They just erased his name. Julian pulled her into his arms. She resisted for a moment, then crumpled against him. I trusted you, she whispered. I let you into my home, into Leo's life, and the whole time your company was. I didn't know. He pulled back, holding her shoulders so she could see his face. I swear to you, but I know now, and I'm going to fix it. How? It's your company. Marcus is your VP. The technology launches next month. Watch me. The confrontation happened that night. Marcus was in his corner office, nursing a scotch, watching the city lights with the satisfaction of a man who'd gotten away with everything. "Julian," he smiled as Julian entered. "What a day. The board is thrilled. Tell me about Elias Vance." The smile flickered. "Who? The man whose technology you stole?" Silence. Marcus set down his scotch. "That's a serious accusation." "It's not an accusation, it's a fact. I have his notebooks. I have the original formula. I have the diagrams, including the one you broadcast today." Marcus's jaw tightened, but when he spoke, his voice was calm. "Julian, let me explain something. Elias Vance was a nobody, a garage inventor with delusions of grandeur. Yes, his ideas had potential, but potential isn't product. We turned his concepts into something real. You stole from a dying man. We commercialized abandoned research. There's a difference. He died broke, Marcus. He died trying to raise money for treatment while you sat on his invention and waited. I can't be responsible for a man's medical misfortunes. You could have funded him. My father wanted to fund him." Something shifted in Marcus's face. "Your father was a sentimentalist," he said. "He saw potential in everyone. That's why he hired me, to protect the company from his soft heart. He hired you to make decisions, not to steal from people. I made the company profitable. I made you rich, and you want to throw that away because some inventor's widow made you feel guilty?" Julian stepped closer. "That inventor had a name. He had a wife. He has a son who recognized his father's stolen work by smell. And you took everything from them." Marcus spread his hands. "I took nothing. Read the fine print. Paragraph 7, Section 3. All materials submitted become property of Sterling Dynamics. It's completely legal." Legal isn't the same as right. There is no right in business, Julian, only winning and losing. Julian looked at the man who'd been his father's right hand, who'd guided his career, shaped his company, taught him everything he knew about success. "Then I choose to lose," he said, "if that's what it takes." He turned and walked out. The war lasted 3 weeks. Marcus marshaled the board against Julian. Anonymous reports questioned his mental stability. Stories appeared in business publications about his erratic behavior, his inappropriate relationship with a woman of questionable background. The board called an emergency session. Julian was asked to take a leave of absence while an independent committee investigated. He was locked out of his own company. "I'm sorry," his assistant said as security escorted him from the building. "I tried to warn them." Julian handed her a box of personal items. "Keep fighting," he told her. "The truth matters." He walked out into the cold afternoon, unemployed for the first time in his life. Audrey found him on her doorstep that evening. He looked like a man who'd lost everything, because he had. "They took the company," he said. "Marcus convinced them I was unstable." Audrey stepped aside to let him in. Leo was asleep. The apartment was quiet except for the refrigerator hum and the distant traffic. Julian sank onto the couch. "I tried to do the right thing, and they took everything. What happens now? I don't know. Fighting a corporate board takes months, years, and every day Marcus will be burying evidence, consolidating power." Audrey sat beside him, not touching, but close. "Julian," she said, "look at me." He did. "When Elias was dying," she continued, "he made me promise something. He said, don't let them forget I existed. Don't let Leo grow up thinking his father was a failure." Her voice was steady. Her eyes were not. "I've spent 2 years trying to keep that promise, and I was failing. I couldn't prove anything. I couldn't do anything. I was just surviving." She took his face in her hands. "Then Leo called you daddy in a grocery store, and everything changed." Julian felt his eyes burn. "This isn't over," Audrey said. "We have Elias's notebooks, we have your father's notes, we have the truth, and we have each other." "That might not be enough." "It's more than I had 3 weeks ago." She leaned in and kissed him. Soft, brief, a promise. "Now," she said, "let's figure out how to burn them down." The story broke on a Tuesday. Julian had called a contact at the Seattle Times, a reporter who'd been investigating corporate IP theft for years. He'd handed over everything. Elias's notebooks, his father's handwritten memos, the internal documents showing the timeline of theft. The headline was everywhere. Sterling Dynamics CEO alleges IP theft, corruption. They stole a dying man's invention. But what captured the public's imagination wasn't the corporate scandal. It was the photograph. Leo, 3 years old, holding the glass bottle of tracer compound, his green eyes serious. his small hands wrapped around his father's stolen legacy. The caption read, "He knew." He recognized what we'd forgotten. The response was overwhelming. Within days, the board reversed their decision. Julian was reinstated, Marcus was terminated pending criminal investigation, and in a press conference that made national news, Julian Sterling announced something unprecedented. Effective immediately, the AICS technology will be renamed. From this day forward, it will be known as the Vance Sterling Atmospheric Capture System. He paused, looking directly at the camera. Elias Vance invented this technology. He died before he could see it change the world. But his son will know his father was a genius. His widow will know his name lives on. And 50% of all royalties will be placed in a trust for Leo Elias Vance. In the crowd, Audrey clutched Leo against her chest, tears streaming down her face. Leo waved at the television cameras. "That's my daddy's thing," he told a reporter who leaned in with a microphone. "It smells like storm." 6 months later, Value Mart on Aurora Avenue looked exactly the same. Julian walked through the automatic doors pushing a shopping cart. No suit today, jeans and a sweater, clothes he'd never owned before meeting Audrey. Behind him, she carried a grocery list, laughing at something Leo had said. The fluorescent lights still buzzed. The linoleum was still scuffed. The shopping cart still had that battered, seen some things quality. But everything was different. Leo sat in the cart, clutching a toy robot with the Vance Sterling logo. He was chattering about dinosaurs, about preschool, about the new puppy they were getting next week. "Animal crackers," he announced as they turned into aisle 7. "The frosted ones." Julian grabbed the box without checking the price. "Frosted ones it is." "Thanks, Daddy Julian." Audrey caught his eye, smiled. Daddy Julian. He'd never get tired of hearing it. A woman passing by did a double take. "Wait, aren't you Julian Sterling? The one from the news?" Julian put the animal crackers in the cart. "Just a guy buying groceries." "No, you're him. The one who—" "Mama!" Leo interrupted, pointing at a display of juice boxes. "Can I get the grape ones, please?" The woman watched, confused, as the billionaire CEO debated juice flavors with a 3-year-old. "Grape it is," Julian decided, "but you have to share with the puppy." "Puppies can't have grape juice, Daddy Julian. That's silly." "You're right. I'm very silly. Very, very silly." Audrey slipped her hand into Julian's as they walked toward the checkout. Her ring caught the fluorescent light. Simple, modest, exactly what she'd wanted. "You know," she said, "we met in this aisle. I remember. You were looking for fancy coffee. I never found it. You found something better." Julian squeezed her hand, looked at Leo, at Audrey, at the full cart of groceries they no longer had to count coins to afford. A year ago, he'd had everything except the one thing that mattered. Now he had nothing except everything that mattered. "Yeah," he said, "I did. Sometimes the people meant to find us arrive in the most unexpected ways. A scent, a stranger, a child's innocent cry." Leo didn't just call out Daddy that day. He called out for justice, for truth, for a second chance at love. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe to join our family. New stories that move, inspire, and surprise, uploaded every single day. See you in the next one.